Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Neals Chitan. I am an international social skill consultant and crime reduction specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to just comment a little on an article, my latest article I wrote in April, this April, that's 2020, and that was captioned, The COVID-19 Monster Breeds More Monsters. Of course, this article was carried by a number of publishing houses, and I thank those that carried it because indeed I think it's a worthwhile article that is worth its salt. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I first of all, in the, as I penned the article, I wanted to speak a little about the monstrous nature of COVID-19. And of course, there are a number of, as I said, there are a number of symbols that could be used. Oh, I've heard people referring to COVID-19 too, a plague, a blight, if you please. But I think the one I like the best is a monster. Because a monster have this kind of a sneaky lurking up on you in the dark kind of attributes, and I thought so. I tend to want to use the monster symbol a little more. However, what is it I was getting at when I said the COVID-19 monster, which I already called a monster, breeds more monsters? And so, ladies and gentlemen, in that article, I spoke about some of the psychosocial issues of monsters, if you please, that are popping up because of that original COVID-19 monster, which is, of course, the virus. There is no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that this COVID-19 has put quite stress, trauma, and pressure on individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, from simple hand washing techniques, which we no longer just pass on, wash and go, but have to deliberately 20 seconds and intentionally, to wearing of face masks. And if you are as claustrophobic as I am, you would not be very happy to be wearing face mask. As a matter of fact, before I became a social skill interventionist or consultant, my prior profession was as a dental technologist, where I too had to work with a mask around my face. And many times my colleagues had to say to me, Mr. Chitan, remember to put your mask on, because that's just not me. I don't like to be. I am a kind of an outgoing person and an extrovert, if you please, and having a mask around my face, despite the advantages or the great advantages, especially in this COVID-19 era. So for me, it would be a tough one. But of course, we have to look at the greater good or the necessity of it. Other things like isolation. We have lockdowns and we have curfews, and we have the quarantines and what I go with trying to keep the virus from transmission or from community spread, as we call it. And so we have things like social distancing. It used to be social distancing. Now it's more regularly called physical distancing, because of course authorities around the world have all realized what could happen if we actually socially distance ourselves, because as human beings, we all need that companionship. We need the connectivity to each other. And so thank God for social media, which create the social closeness. And so really and truly, it's social distancing. Physical distancing is a better term. But of course, physical distances see us, and curfews and isolation see us locked down in our homes. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in that article, the COVID-19 monster breeds more monsters. One of the monsters I spoke about there, and very profoundly, is that of what happens within the home setting. Ladies and gentlemen, for homes that where relationships are kind of rocky, where you have dysfunctional relationships, it's going to create a bigger problem because, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes a lot of men that are within dysfunctional relations or dysfunctional homes, they have their hobbies, their extracurricular hobbies, if you want to call it that. That is, after work, they may go to a ball game, or they may go to a bar, or they may go to a club, and because of course they do not enjoy being home. And so they would use these social outlets as coping mechanisms. Instead of going home to these children that drive me crazy, or this perceived woman that drives me crazy, as they see it. Ask me too many questions. I prefer to hang out later, my friends. Drink myself, and leave 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever time is, and head home just to take a shower and go to bed, and then of course repeat the whole thing next day. And of course, as we see it, it is just a getaway mechanism or a coping mechanism. But now with COVID-19 and people are locked down in their homes, you are locked there, gentlemen, with this perceived nagging woman. And I said very carefully because I don't want to be the one that is actually labeling, and that's why I use the word perceived or so-called. That's just the way the gentleman sees it. Or it could be vice versa, where you have a gentleman who harasses his wife, or quizzes her, want to go to her phone, or whatever it is, and she does not want to come home afterwards. So she may go to a friend, or go to the mall, or ladies, the big S word, go shopping. And now we have the malls closing down, we have the bars closing down, and we are locked in within our homes 24/7. So there we have the monster of abuse raising its head, because of course, what do you do now? You don't have an escape mechanism. You don't have a coping mechanism. The alcohol you drink, sir, which you're self-medicated with, you don't have too much access to it, probably. And so it's very, very easy for each other to push each other's buttons. There goes the so-called nagging. There goes the rudeness from the woman's point of view, that the man display, the rough, callous kind of attitude. And so it's very easy for the monster of domestic violence to raise its ugly head in the home, because of course you are locked down within the walls. So these are things we have to look at. These are things, ladies and gentlemen, families, we have to be prepared for, or pre-think, or not, even if we didn't have the time to pre-think, because of course COVID-19 just crept up on us. Now that we're in the situation, we have to sit down and think, how do we navigate ourselves through it? And of course, equally true is that of teenagers and parents, because again, teenagers, especially high school students that are going through the teenage rebellion or defiance, not really defiance, but where they're trying to set up their own parameters, where they're trying to be interdependent, and where they would not necessarily like the rules of the house. When mom say, come home right after school, and they want to go to the malls, or they want to go downtown, or they want to go to the park. But again, these were activities they would engage in to actually spend more time out there than coming home to a mom that, again, there goes the N-word, nagging. But now, with school off, and you're enforced to stay in a 24/7 curfew situation, These youngsters have no way to deal with that issue. They have to stare or look into the face of parents who they don't necessarily like. No, they said like. I didn't say love. I said like, right? Because of course, of what they see as parents coming to toughen them, and now they're stuck inside. Easy for not just child abuse or but what about parent abuse, but the child become very rude, very even violent. And we have uh, children we've heard of where children even been physical with the parents. So that was one of the monsters we talked about. A second monster was um, loss and grief. And ladies and gentlemen, I spoke about it very emphatically in that article because I had had to deal with people, especially here in the Caribbean, who have family members away in some of the great metropolitan areas of North America, and hoping that they would be here for summer or for carnival or something like that. Plans have been made, only to hear that the COVID virus had taken them out, been infected, positive, and die. And so that loss is heavy. An expectation and an eager expectation of auntie or mom or dad or uncle or cousin coming and spend the summer with us in the Caribbean is now totally derailed. And what is the result? Chronic or even compounded loss. And so, but the thing about it is that what compounds the loss even more is the point that many times, not many times, almost in every situation, because borders are locked down, and most times you have people that from the Caribbean or whatever that live abroad may want to come back to Grenada to be buried, or to the Caribbean, Jamaica, wherever it is, to be buried in case they die. Well, of course, it's almost inevitable, but no, that wish cannot be granted because borders are closed. They die lonely because just so many infections in these hospitals of North America. No family members could be by the bedside to hold their hands, to sing them a song, to pray with them, to as they go through that dark tunnel of death. And so you have it on the victim side, and then of course you have it on the side of the relatives, the children, the siblings, whoever it is that are closely related. And now you get the call that your mother, your father, your brother, your cousin, whatever, your child has died uh, somewhere out there in North America, and you're unable to say bye. You're unable to, to bring some form of closure. And but, ladies and gentlemen, again, the way funerals are designed, that whole funeralizing process is really meant to help people to let go, to give them some form of closure. From the time what I call the breaking news, when you get the first call that you've lost someone and you have to deal with that, coming to terms with the fact that that person is gone. And then, of course, you have seeing the body, viewing the body. Some people even get so, especially in the Caribbean, so intimate with it that they even want to dress. Go to the funeral home and say, can I put on the tie? Can I put on the jacket? And all that's a form of closure, of course. And then, of course, come the funeral day when we sing and we cry together. And then we go to the cemetery and we see them go down. And as the grave is filled, we know it's a way of closure. But that's denied you because, of course, of the number of deaths, the overwhelming number of deaths that these funeral homes in North America have to deal with. And not only that, because of the social distancing, how many people are allowed to go to the funeral. So there again, you are in the Caribbean or you are long distance, and all you heard is that your mother died, your brother died, your child died, but you would never get to see them again. And that in itself could be haunting. And that could lead you into deep grief, uncontrollable grief, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, uncontrollable grief leads to depression. And depression that's not treated, not adequately treated or professionally treated, can lead down a slippery slope where the person loses hope and even may commit the inevitable, that is suicide. The grief would have led them straight into suicide. So that's another monster. And of course, there's no doubt in the number of people that we are losing from the Caribbean, in North America and in the United Kingdom and what have you. I mean, I'm hearing now that Grenada has lost close to 70 people. These are 70 family members here, probably, or quite a great percentage of them who would not be seen, had no closure. How do you get up tomorrow? What do you think? You didn't see them. You are dubious. You're not even sure how to deal with it. And so that's another monster. That's the second monster I spoke about. The third monster I spoke about, of course, is that of crime and violence. Because, ladies and gentlemen, with curfews and isolation now, and one of the crimes that we see in the Caribbean is pretty larceny, where farmers who bent their backs and invested money and hours in the hot sun to grow their crops and are now locked in because, of course, they can't, because we're and by all means for a good cause to make sure we don't have community spread of virus. And so we are all compliant for the greater good, but at the same time, we have our cabbages and our lettuce and our tomatoes in the field there. People that are criminally minded, people that have no respect for people's labor, and a matter of fact, no respect for the law, the regulations, the curfew, and who are bent on doing criminal acts. This is a nest, a hot nest or fertile ground for crime and violence. You know, and of course, we had that not too long ago. There was noise about of a farmer, someone who went to steal his produce, and he intercepted and he died. The robber actually killed him. So as a result, ladies and gentlemen, that's another monster. The crime and violence, it could spike because, of course, the streets are empty. There are no much video cameras, and of course, living in the 21st century of the cell phone, that video camera is now being looked upon as key evidence, because somebody, and you would hear police forces appealing in the media appeal, if anyone saw anything or if anybody had think they captured anything on the camera, please turn it in, because these short films of video clips could be key witnesses in solving crime. But of course, with the lockdown, with the isolation, the cameras are less on the street now. Business places could be robbed, break and enter, could skyrocket, and this crime and violence could go haywire. So that was a third monster. And of course, there are many others, but these were the three I spoke about. By the way, someone read the article and did not read, and that's why I always ask people, when you're reading my articles, please take your time and read, so that you don't misunderstand or misconstrue what I'm trying to say. Because someone actually commented, and the comment went something like this: Dr. Chitan, are you saying that are you calling people that are hungry and want to go out in the streets monsters? What a total misunderstanding of the article. Ladies and gentlemen, the article was not meant to call anyone a monster. That would be totally erroneous. That would be kind of disrespectful too on my part. It was simply saying that these acts and these issues that are now raising their heads, just like our COVID-19 is a monster, that monster has bred other monsters, and if we're not careful with, and if we don't get treatment from, and if we don't, and so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to applaud the Grenada cabinet for putting together, of course, a psychosocial unit to advise, and I'm thankful that they've asked me to be one of those advisors, psychosocial advisors, so we could look into these monsters that are raising their head, and we could mitigate them in time, so that not only could we take care of some of the issues that are raising their head in our homes and in isolation, but also we can help our people to comply a little better, or know why they must comply. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the old adage is always true. Knowledge is power, and people will comply a little better when they realize what's happening. And so we could stop the spread. We can kill this monster, that COVID-19 monster, so we can get back on to building our country, building our families, and building our lives. Again, my name is Dr. Neals Chitan, and it was my pleasure to speak to you. God bless you.